Welcome back, everybody. We are through with our executive session. So we do have some action to take as a result of an executive session. So our first action will be in regards to item D1. Councilman Roman?
I move to approve the exchange of land between the City of Farmers Branch and the Carrollton Farmers Branch Independent School District for the redevelopment of Farmers Branch Elementary and Cox Park, and authorize the city manager or his designee to negotiate and execute an interlocal agreement and such other documents as necessary to complete the transaction.
Thank you very much. We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. If you would, by a show of hands, please indicate your vote. All in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. There is no action to take as a result of discussion regarding item D2. I will make a motion regarding item D3, and that is make a motion to authorize the city manager to appropriate interest earned from the project bonds for the Star Center project in the amount not to exceed $500,000 to be used for Encore utility relocation expenses and other necessary project expenses, and to authorize the city manager to execute such purchase orders and contract documents as may be necessary to effectuate the same.
I'll second.
Thank you. A motion and a second. Please indicate by show of hands. All in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. There is no action to take as a result of item D4. We did. Should I go on and say that we?
You can say what was finalized, yeah.
Okay. Yep. We did review goals and objectives for the city manager for the 25-26 year, and those all met with council approval. So thank you very much. And that will conclude the regular portion of our council meeting. Now, we will move back to study session items and resume our study session with item C3, which is discuss reinstating the Multicultural Event Task Force Committee.
Mayor and Council, Robert Diaz, Parks and Rec Director. I'm just going to get this started. This was a request to Councilman Roman to look at the Multicultural Committee. Within your packet, I went ahead and put the resolution that was passed in 2023. It's 2023-089 that established the Multicultural Committee, and it was sunset April 30th of 2024. So this is just an open forum discussion. I can answer any questions you might have, or it's more to, I guess, for all of you to kind of discuss whether we want to move to bring this back or some iteration of this type of committee. And I'll answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, council. We have any questions? Councilman Roman?
No questions, but I think the committee was a great success last year, and I think the multicultural event is still in its infancy stages, and I think requires guidance from those individuals who represent those the individuals who represent a vast array of cultures that will be represented at the multicultural event. I think that preserves its authenticity and ensures that we're being respectful of accurately reflecting people's culture. But I wanted to also present the opportunity that, after, because, we're talking about reinstating the Multicultural Committee, and in the ordinance, it'll indicate specifically the scope of their focus. And I think we should add the responsibility of having them audit our events to determine how we should focus in on events moving forward within a certain budget, of course. I think this past budget cycle presented a lot of concerned individuals who were sad to see some of the events go. And I think allowing the committee, who already represents a vast group of people from different cultural groups, is the best way that we can garner some feedback on what events we should have moving forward. Maybe it's the same ones. Maybe we keep some and add some more. Maybe we get rid of some. It's really up to them. I think the decision will ultimately be up to us when we review the budget. But I think it's important that we give residents an opportunity to have a voice in the events that are of great interest to them. And then kind of wanted to present that just as a foreshadow of what I would like to see for this committee moving forward, is then to sort of continue in its existence, and maybe we can have this discussion at a later time. But while we are on the subject of this multicultural committee, I've seen how other cities have leveraged a committee similar to this. And I'll read a little bit of the mission of another multicultural committee that was formed at a local city nearby, which I thought is important, just giving how the demographic of our city is changing so quickly. And so here's what it had said: that the purpose of the multicultural committee was to maximize the potential inclusion, quality of life, and quality of life of all citizens in our city by identifying issues and making recommendations to council concerning the city's changing demographic, composition, and diverse needs. So I think that we need to find a way to interact with our evolving community. And I think this committee continuing on with a similar mission to what I just read, I think would be to the benefit of our community. So those are just sort of my thoughts, and I wanted to share them with the council and see where everybody else is at.
What city was that you were reading from?
Garland?
Okay. Does anybody have any comments or remarks to make about that?
I was just going to offer consideration, if council, I know we have the Arts and Culture Committee. Would this committee be separate or kept separate, or would we roll that together with Arts and Culture, and they be like a subcommittee to Arts and Culture, or I don't know.
I think that's certainly a possibility. I think that's kind of why I said, as I kind of think about the vision of this committee and what I see in it, I think if the council has a desire to try and enhance the connections and just the connections with diverse groups across the city, and address their specific needs, I think it makes sense to establish this as a separate committee and have it run as a separate committee permanently. But I can certainly see it also merging under the Arts and Culture Committee if it's not the desire of council, or there doesn't seem to be a value seen when it comes to kind of what I had presented about the future prospects of the committee. So I think we can go either way with it, but I think either way it's important to reinstate them just so they can help provide input, so that we can respectfully put on an event that is authentic to each culture.
Yeah, I would agree. It's helpful to have them having such committee. I'm just trying to organizationally understand where the Arts and Culture Committee itself might be connected or tied to this in some way, because it's in their name, right? Arts and Culture, so this is all part of culture and multicultural, so I didn't know what the thoughts are. But yes, I do think they add a great value to that event, a very successful event. So yeah, just throwing it out to have a consideration and relationship with Arts and Culture Committee.
Thank you. Councilman Jackson?
Well, one thing to consider, I'm sorry, seems that Oh, I didn't realize you were talking. My apologies.
No, sorry. I think the success of the first multicultural event that we had last year is indication this could be a really signature event for Farmers Branch. And the importance of this particular task force, I think, well, and the size of this event and the importance of the event to our city warrants this task force to be focused specifically on this event. To Councilman Roman's suggestion about looking at all of our events and making sure there's some, if I understood you correctly, some coordination, some assessment. Do we have the right number of events? Do we have the right events? Are we representing everyone fairly in the right way? Certainly deserves more discussion, because there are probably some other ideas around how we go about doing that, whether the Multicultural Event Task Force is a subcommittee of that, or that is born from this committee because, or this event task force, because while I agree 150%, the task force from last year knocked it out of the park with that event. And I would certainly want us to have a committee of the same competency and success, and likely of some of the same people on that again this year. This particular resolution, I would suggest, needs to stay focused on this task force. And is there a time, we need to get this task force put together and get them rocking and rolling, because this event's going to be coming around early next year, and we want this one to be even bigger and better than last year. So is that fair to say, Robert?
Yes, sir. I mean, we plan in the budget to have the event again, so it's on staff's radar they were going to move forward with or without a committee. So we were moving forward to have another event in the spring. We had it part of the budget process this past spring and summer. So, but if that's council's wish to go ahead and create a committee or resurrect the old committee, it's up to council. We'll follow whatever direction council wants to provide.
Okay, yeah. So I'm fine with the resolution as writ. But I also agree that a separate discussion with maybe a broader scope is warranted.
Yeah, I mean, and I think you're right. I think there's a level of sort of organizational structure, like what actually makes sense, because the only reason I suggested the multicultural committee to give feedback on the different events is because just thinking about the timing of our budget coming up and the efficiency of a committee that is already familiar with what it takes to put on an event of significance in terms of size, I think they're going to have some level of empathy and understanding as they give recommendations to our staff to say, hey, these are the events that we'd like. To know that you're going to now ask our staff to do this 15 more times. And that's all it was. And maybe the committee changes to the, call it something else. But just wanted to be mindful that our budget discussions are going to start again, probably sometime late January, February, and I want to make sure that the committee, whoever we assign to provide feedback, if that's a desire of the council, then they have plenty of time to find candidates, select them for I guess the staff to make a call for applications, us to review them, appoint people, the committee get together, get their bearings in order, and then start the discussion, do the audit, and then come back to provide feedback all before we make budget decisions. And so I just was trying to think of how we can do that most efficiently. But those are just sort of my thoughts on the why.
Councilman Reed, you had something that you want to say?
Yeah, something along the same lines as Councilman Jackson, whereas the resolution here is focused on the multicultural event, but I agree that we need to take a broader look at events in general and perhaps pull in members of other boards, arts and culture, parks and rec, or, historical, all that, because they oversee different events as well and get feedback from those boards as well, from a centralized committee. So those are my thoughts.
I'd probably lean toward making it a subcommittee that was from September, October until, is the event in March?
Correct.
Until a few weeks after the event or something, so that they can, but keeping it the arts and culture, and then having this as a subcommittee.
I'd like to give an opinion, if you allow. The committee, the Multicultural Task Force, was established to help in producing one event, and that was our multicultural event, which they did last year. Very good event. I would like to see that event continue. I think the committee needs to broaden the scope of which they looked for entertainment. I do not think it's that committee's or task force's role or responsibility to audit all of the other city events for several reasons. One, we have a professional staff of employees that actually do the work for producing most events. There are events where we have citizen volunteers, citizen committee members that actively participate. But we have boards for doing that. We have a park board, we have a historical park board, and then we have other groups as well that help to execute various types of events. So I don't see this as a layer on top of what we have. I don't want them to lose focus of the one event that they were essentially chartered, if you will, to help execute. If anybody feels as though there needs to be a review of events, then perhaps we need to have that discussion separately, as we did once before when we scaled back the total number of events. And then that also brings to mind the appointment process of people to serve on that particular task force or committee, just the same as all of the other boards and commissions that we have in the city. So I think it merits a broader discussion, another discussion. I'd like to see this group focus on executing the upcoming multicultural event. And for the time being, leave it at that until we've had a chance as a body to more fully discuss what makes best sense for the city.
And that's basically what I was getting. Maybe I did not communicate my thoughts properly, but I was looking at two separate entities. One, leaving the task force as is, focusing on that single event. And then, like you said, further discussion on something a little bit more broad in regards to events in general and pulling in from the various boards that we have to take a look at those things.
Yeah, and that's fine. You know, I think as long as the multicultural committee, I think, gets created, I just want to make sure that we are true and authentic in the way, I mean, I don't want to offend anybody's culture by imagining that we understand it and we put it on and we completely butcher it. So I think as long as the committee exists, whether it's in a similar way as we did last year, or we move it under a subcommittee, I think either way is fine. And I think we already have a future agenda item to discuss a committee. And so if we're thinking that it might make more sense to have it as a separate and more broader committee, I think that's great too. I would just ask that maybe we have that discussion sooner rather than later so that we can go through the entire process of making a call for applications, selecting people, and then getting that started. Because I think when we start reviewing applications for boards and committees and commissions, that starts, I think we start calling for applications in March. We close it in April, and then we start reviewing applications May for appointments in July. And so that tells me that it takes a good 5 to 6 months. And so I just want to make sure that we have adequate time to find good qualified applicants. And I think to Councilmember Reed's point, he's absolutely right. I think there's other people from other boards that we could definitely leverage who understand what it's like to put on these events and the work that's required. The last thing that I would want is to select individuals on there that have no understanding of what it takes to put on an event, and then they give a recommendation that's wholly unrealistic for our staff and for our budget. And so I think all I would ask is that we have that discussion sooner rather than later to get the ball rolling and have adequate time for all of that to happen, and then the feedback to come back so we can chew on it.
Okay, noted.
Yeah.
But let me ask you, do you know of, we had the committee, has anybody said that they're not coming back, that they don't want to be a part of it in the future?
We haven't reached out to the committee. but-
Yeah, I mean, I've heard from some of them that they loved it. I think some of them attended the board, you remember talking about that board
Yeah,
chair meeting or
Yeah.
something? And so I think they would love to be part of it again.
okay. So can we send a note out to all those that participated? And maybe we need to get an organizational meeting and just find out who's in, who's not, and just check pulse of everybody?
Would you want a new resolution done, and we bring that back at the July meeting till we reestablish the multicultural, go ahead and set a time frame for just multicultural?
I would suggest that we reestablish the multicultural committee to facilitate next year's event, the 2025 event. And then that way, that gives you the authority to ask who's in, who wants to come back, and then how many holes we have to fill. And then concurrent with that, we can have discussion about the broader
Yeah.
aspect. But at least get the committee basically in place so they can start working on 25 event.
Okay.
And I, just for clarification, I think I had heard Councilmember Baird and Neil indicate that they preferred that this be sort of a subcommittee. And I think the resolution would authorize it to be a separate standalone committee.
Correct.
So I think maybe we need to give some clear direction on where the council is in terms of that, so that he knows whether the resolution needs to move forward and needs to come before council for approval, or if it needs to just be directed to the arts and culture representatives.
Correct.
And, okay, so forgive me, were we subcommittee last year?
No, last year it was a standalone committee
Okay.
with a resolution.
Well, I sort of like it as standalone right now, but that's up to y'all to
Yeah.
decide.
I am happy for either. I will take what I get.
Yes, ma'am.
Council Mayor, Jessica Alvarado, Recreation Superintendent. So I did have two things that I wanted to note. With this being a subcommittee of either the Parks and Recreation Board or the Arts and Culture Board, it would allow us to put them in place a lot sooner to assist and start the booking process. We do have a multicultural task force member that is now a city employee, so she would no longer be eligible. And then we do have another one who is now a Parks and Rec board member. So for sure, we would have two vacancies. And then filling those would then just delay us a little bit longer. And if we want to get entertainment established and booked, we kind of need to start on that.
All right,
soon.
so serving as a subcommittee, that enables us to go out and get those applicants or
add it
interested
to-
parties quicker,
Yeah.
sooner, rather than waiting for a resolution and whatnot.
Yes.
Yeah, I think
Would that be
makes
the
sense.
direction the council would want to go?
Yeah, I think so. And,
Okay.
That makes sense.
who would be responsible then for selecting the people who end up on that committee? Is that the Arts and Culture Committee?
Whichever board you decide to put it on,
Yeah.
they would then establish that at the next board meeting. It would be an agenda item,
Yeah.
and they would establish that
I think that
subcommittee.
sounds good.
Are you
What do
good with
guys
arts and
think?
culture? Okay. Arts
Yeah,
and culture?
subcommittee on arts and culture would move a lot faster. I think they
Yeah.
would probably accept all the same people that were there last year. I don't see them not disposing of any of those folks. And with the 2 vacancies, maybe there's 1 or 2 people on the arts and culture that might want to fill this slot. I don't know, but
Yeah.
I think it could just operate a little faster.
Yeah,
Overall.
for sure.
Very good.
Thank you.
I think we're good.
All righty, thank you all.
Thank you.
Next up is item C4, receive an update from Human Resources regarding the City of Farmers Branch 410 work schedule.
Good evening. Yoko Matsumoto, Director of Human Resources. We're revisiting the 410 schedule. Some of the information for those that are currently sitting, it might be a repeat. There are new members who haven't seen some of the transitions, and it kind of gives you a history of what it was prior to the 410s. So that information will be new to some and a repeat for others. And then we've added a little bit of data here. And I have Jeffrey Ross and Maria Mentor will also be here to help with questions that you might have at the end. So I kind of wanted to run through this so our new council members knew what it was prior to August 14th of the launch at 2023. This was a schedule for City Hall. It ran Monday through Thursday from 8 to 6, and then Friday from 8 to 5, which gave about 49 hours of customer service at City Hall. And then after we implemented it, August 14th of 23, it changed from Monday through Friday, 7:30 in the morning to 6 o'clock in the evening, which increased the customer service hours to 52.5 hours. So moving into what it looked like for our employee work schedule. So prior to the move, we were on a 980 schedule. Monday through Thursday, employees would work 9 hours. On a Friday, there was an 8-hour day. And then lunch was an hour. So what would happen was staff would either take off every other Friday or every other Monday. So that was a 980 schedule that the city was running. And then we moved to the 410s. And so it's a Monday through Thursday, 10 hours a day. Friday, they're off. And then lunch is 30 minutes, so it went from an hour to 30 minutes. Or we have some staff that take the Monday off, and then they work Tuesday through Friday, 10 hours with a 30-minute lunch. So those were the changes in the employee work schedules due to the 410s. And we put out a employee kind of survey to just see what their thoughts were when we changed to the 410s. And so the majority of people are working that Monday through Thursday. We have some that run through a Tuesday through Friday, and then some of our respondents, they don't have this schedule. There are some employees that don't run a 410. Exempt versus non-exempt, the majority of respondents were non-exempt as compared to the exempt. And these were the two questions that we really wanted to ask. How has the 410 schedule impacted their work-life balance? The majority of the respondents, 85% of them, said there was a positive, 12% with not really significant, and 3% as a negative. And then how do you feel about the 410 work schedule has influenced their productivity? 80% positive, 20% no significant change, and we had no negatives there. This information, we worked with Maria and her team, the CSRs, and so we wanted to kind of track what City Hall lobby out the visitor count was for just a quarter. So we were looking at May, June, and July, And the way Maria and her team did it, we looked at 7:30 to 7:59 in the morning, how many visitors, they did a count. And then it was 8 to 12, or 8 to 11:59, 12 to 5, and then 5 to 6. So this kind of gives you an overview of just the visitors that were coming into our lobby, working or asking questions to our staff. I believe Maria also has additional information in regards to phone calls, because this is just walk-ins. And then the last thing we kind of wanted to present was recruitment and retention, because that was, when it was initially presented, that was a piece of it. This image you see is one of the, there's multiple, but I put this one up there. This is a sheet, a benefits flyer that we provide when we are recruiting possible applicants that come, job fairs and things of that nature. So we added the 4 days work week. And if you see, some of the data that we pulled is 38% increase on the average number of daily applications that have been received since the implementation. We had 35% increase of the average number of apps per job. It has helped increasing the candidate pools for some of our hard-to-fill positions. And we gave you some just data on some of those positions that we're looking at. And then in the future, this fiscal year and second quarter, one of the things that HR has been discussing with Ben, city manager, was we were looking at doing a stay survey for the city, which is not, it's not like, why did you leave survey? It's what do we have as an employer that will keep you working with the city? And so during this stay survey, we really wanted to kind of dig into that 410 as part of that whole questioning for the staff. So that's all the information we have, but we do have 3 staff members here that can answer any questions that you may have regarding the 410 schedule, as well as other department heads that run it with their teams as well. So we are open for questions if you have any.
I'll start. Councilman Roman, you have any questions?
Yes. So as I was looking through the material, in your memo that you've put together as part of the legislative text for this agenda item, you kind of used a word that kind of caught my interest. You said potentially that this program potentially improves work-life balance. Can you explain why you wrote that in uncertain terms?
Well, there could be, since there's differences in our staff, some people it might work, as you can see, where some of the people said it affected negatively. The majority of them said it positively. So I couldn't do it across the board, because there could be some instances where, for example, maybe somebody has childcare needs, that they working till 6 o'clock might impede some of that, children getting out at 3:30, and then they might need to pick up kids in that nature. So potentially for some, others it's not. I don't agree that I couldn't say that it's going to be across the board 100%. Everybody's going to love it. So that's why there is a potential of some people really loving it and some people just having a little more challenges in what they're trying to juggle in their life.
And when you did your survey and you asked for feedback, how many of the people received the survey?
The entire workforce.
Okay. And does the entire workforce qualify for this program?
It's for full-time employees, the 410s. And then we don't, like police and fire, they have to run their own schedules. Police, have what they're set up. I think they're 12 hours. You guys are running 12-hour shifts. And then our fire department, they are running, they went from 24s, 48s to 48.96.
Okay.
So they're on a special schedule. Those departments need to make sure they maintain those schedules to meet the needs of their business.
Okay, so I'm a little confused because this survey is intended to gather feedback about people's opinions about the program and how they feel it impacts them. And so if it went to the entire workforce, how are we sectioning out the people that it didn't apply to And I mean, it could very well have been that, somebody's friend said, hey, give it this rating so that it stays. I mean, how are you gauging? I think it should have gone only to people who it applied to.
Well, we sent it out to the entire workforce, but your feedback is well taken. So when we move forward with the next survey, then we will exclude those.
Okay.
So it did go to the police and fire.
Went to everybody with the survey on Gallup.
And so so it went out to how many people in total?
I don't have that number for you, but we have about 416 full-time employees is what the average is. But at the time, it could have been as low as 398, because I think that's pretty much the lowest number that I remember. We've grown since I started. So it could have been about 398 is what I'm thinking, somewhere around there.
Okay, and how
Don't
many
quote
people
me.
responded to the survey?
We have the numbers there.
Okay.
So we added, when you look at those charts, they have the totals. Yeah.
Okay, so about 40% of the people actually responded to this.
Right, and some of those, let's see, like for example on this, if you look at the chart where it says, do you currently work a 410? 48 of the ones who had said no, they didn't work. And it could be employees, because we definitely made it allow the department heads to have that option. They know best of how to run their business and how they need to work their schedules. So some of them, it could be a department does run 410s, but you might have a few people who do need to do a childcare and the department head has approved it or what have you. So some of that 48 could include employees that are within a department that runs a 410, but with the exception of they made the agreement, they want to come in traditional 8 to 5, and that's fine as well.
Okay, so then within the people who qualify for it, then there's more deviations, because there are some people who prefer not to do it and then work a different 8 to 5 schedule.
We did get a few people when we did launch it that went to department heads and, said, hey, I would prefer to do the 8 to 5. HR had the way we looked at it was like if the department head agrees and that's the way that they're going to run their business, then we allowed them to do that. It wasn't straight across, everybody had to do it. And HR did not demand that. It was, we gave the department heads that authority.
So wouldn't that create animosity between departments and staff if somebody got something that someone else couldn't?
We as HR, we have not received any complaints about that.
Because I have.
Okay, well, thank you.
For your feedback. We'll consider it for next time.
Councilman,
How are we keeping track of people who are leaving early or showing up late?
Well, in the nature of our business, we as a city, HR, as our department, we do not really go into departments to track who's leaving early and leaving late. There's so many nuances that could happen within a department. Maybe somebody is working, they worked so many hours, and then they're giving them time off. So that's within the structure of the department. So if you have a department head, they have managers, supervisors that manage your team, they have the authority to manage that piece of timekeeping with their staff. But HR in general, we do not oversee all of those components. It would be really complicated for us as a department to manage that.
Okay. Going back to the discussion we had in the strategic retreat, one of the pieces of feedback that I had provided was that there are 2 facilities. So there's the fire administration building lobby and the police department lobby are both closed on Friday. Is that still the case right now?
Yes.
And can you explain to me?
Let me have Chief, would you like to come speak on what modifications you might had on your scheduling for admin? I think fire Fire Chief, you're still running 410s Monday through Thursday? Okay. There's modifications on the police side, so Chief McCoy can come speak to that.
Kevin McCoy, Chief of Police. So we did initially have that scheduled with the lobby, but we've since gone back. So it stays open now during business hours on Friday.
Okay, so she said it's not open, no, nothing has changed, and you're saying it has?
No, at the beginning, we ran 410s just on the city schedule, but then that wasn't working for our customers, so we went to the regular
Okay,
schedule.
so now the lobby is open Monday through Friday, regular hours?
Yes, sir.
Okay. There's a sign on your door that says it's closed. I know because
It's
I
probably
did.
the old sign.
I did COP duty on Sunday.
It's an old sign. I'll pull it down.
Okay. Let's see.
Mayor, I'd like to call a point of order. This seems to be a gotcha approach here. I don't know that this is really relevant to bring that up in this format. If there, you notice a sign on the front of the police department that the hours are different than the hours they're actually keeping, sounds like a matter you could take up with city manager, not necessarily in a public forum, in a manner that, in my opinion, is not very respectful of our employees.
Okay,
I'm calling a point of order on that, please.
Okay, I appreciate your feedback. And so, can you go to slide 9, please? I think you might have already answered my question, but I want to make sure you, okay, we're fine on that one. And so, I think in the slides here, oh, there it is. You said that there was going to be a retention survey done in 2025. Can you give me the logic behind doing the survey in 2025 versus having it, because I think the program has been going on for some time.
Right, so the state survey is not specifically focused around a 410 schedule. We were going to push out just a survey like we did initially in February that just focused on a 410. The state survey is a little broader because we really want to look at our total rewards that we're offering as an employer, or just get some other information about what we offer or things that we're not looking at that would keep our employees here. Jeffrey Ross is the mastermind behind the state survey. He has completed them before. If there's other questions about the state survey, he can definitely come up and provide information about what that is. But to clarify, it's not a state survey just asking about 410s. 410s is one of the aspects we will dig into, but there's a lot of things that we offer employees, and we just want to make sure they're the right makeup of our total rewards package that we offer.
And then can you, okay, so on here, you had mentioned, you seem to be making a causal link between the 410s and the impact it's had on recruitment. Can you walk me through how you arrived at that causal link? Like, how do you know that it's directly related to that?
Right, so most of the data regarding this is more of when we're out in the community and we go to these recruiting fairs. So it's not the quantitative where it's like, this is the data, it shows this. When we're out there and we're giving this flyer out and we're talking to possible employees, the thing that comes to my mind, and I will definitely have Jeffrey come speak to this, is the first thing they're like, you guys have 4-day work weeks. That's the first question that I've received when we went to a huge job fair that was, I think it was at it was in Arlington it was the job fair that you had shared that information. Our team went there and there were thousands of people there. Mm-hmm. And we were passing this out, and I would say the number one point is, y'all have 4-day work weeks. We said, yes, we do, and we explain what that is. Jeffrey can actually speak more to all these pieces because he manages all that recruitment and retention piece of our department. So Jeffrey?
Jeffrey Ross, Deputy Director of Human Resources. So to the job fair that Yoko was mentioning, yes, it was out at Globe Life Field out in Arlington. There was tens of thousands of people out there. And what I can say about having the ability to talk about a 4-day work week from a recruitment perspective, it is essentially a cheat code. It's a magic word that gets people engaged with us. I can say that we were situated in somewhat of a darker part that was off the main concourse in the ballpark. So we were just more of kind of a pass-through as people were going to different parts of the job fair. But as the day went on and we were out there in front of the table talking to people, we had our flyers with us, all this different stuff. We had a line of people that was wrapping around some of the pillars that were out in the walkway of people waiting to talk to us. Now, I say that also because we had some other cities situated next to us who didn't have that same effect. So having something like a 4-day work week to really be that attention grabber, that catch for people, that has been just an absolute boon for getting people interested in working for the City of Farmers Branch. And then comparing the numbers, just straight numbers in those applications received, we do see at those job fairs that people say, well, how do I apply? Where can I apply? Do you have paper applications? People want to apply, right? And we have some people who will step off to the side of our tables. They'll apply right there in the moment, and they'll say, okay, I applied. What's the next step? And we kind of tell them what the next step is, things like that. But like I say, it's an absolute, just such a great benefit that we have to be able to offer to people that also helps us when we are in kind of the negotiation phase with new applicants. We don't pay at the very top of market. We pay competitive with market. And so oftentimes when we have candidates who are kind of outside of the realm of what we might be looking to pay for that particular position, we push more things like a total rewards package. Well, we do have 4-day work weeks, and you're likely not, if you're working in municipal government, you're likely not going to find that anywhere else. We also have the HSA contributions. So we're finding all these ways to push this kind of total rewards package. And the 4-day work week is always a big push in kind of those negotiations and trying to really attract that top talent who work-life balance is just absolutely kind of crucial for.
Yeah, I will say I was at Globe Life Field for that. There were about over 22,000 people that attended that event, and I spent some time at both of our booths because police had their own booths, city had, non-police had their own booth, and I even answered questions too because somebody said, hey, there's our mayor, you can ask him. So very good event to be a part of. That was the event that Congresswoman Beth Van Dyne put on for North Texas. And so, yeah, not everybody offers that. It is a point of differentiation, and I think it does make a difference. So can we move along?
No, I mean, that was my last question, and I think, I think there's some, definitely some value added by the 4-day work week from the employee's perspective. And, you know, I've got residents who have noticed some sort of a shift in the servicing. And so I want to make sure that I ask the questions that they've presented me. But I mean, I'm not very pleased with some of the responses that I've received. And I think that's has a negative impact on the perception of the program. But I think it's something that we'll continue to have discussions about moving forward. So I appreciate your answer. Thank you.
So I would like to just butt in here. To your point, I believe it's problematic for any employee to engage with the council person regarding an employment issue that they have, whether it be 410 work week or anything else. I think it's highly improper for them to be talking to a council person about that. We are a policy-making body. We do not address HR issues unless it comes to us through the city manager. And so if we have to have a separate discussion regarding that, then we will do that. But I just want to go on record as saying that, because that is not our role.
What are you talking about?
You mentioned it. You said employees have talked to you. You said that you've gotten complaints from employees regarding 410.
Right, and that's no different than the Police Officers Association or any other interactions that we might have with individuals.
And I think that you need to take that up with the city manager.
I'm not soliciting the information. If people call me and tell me information, then that's up to them.
Then,
As a matter of fact, when people start telling me things, I look at them and I close my ears and I say, I don't want to know.
okay.
Well, our doors are always open for any employees who have workplace concerns. They know that my door's opened, and if I'm not there, Jeffrey Ross is, we work hand in hand. So we have an open door policy if there are any concerns that employees do have regarding this. And initially, when we did launch it, employees, it was new, so they did come and talk to us about, hey, I had the childcare. We talked to department heads, and since we've launched it, we have not received anyone coming in talking or having concerns about the 410. It took a little while to transition on just kind of the needs of the workplace and how the department heads and supervisors were managing that. But since then, we have not heard anything coming through our doors.
Okay. Anybody else have?
I just have a quick question. I noticed in the bar graph you have there regarding respondents, that there's about 6 times as many people doing the Monday through Thursday as there are Tuesday through Friday. Has there been an impact on Friday service levels because of what seems to be a lower staffing amount?
Right, that's a great question. One of the avenues we went when we went to the 410, some of your interior, like working in internal type departments, they were running Monday through Thursday. So a lot of those Fridays are outward-facing departments, like our CSR team, Maria's team. They run a 410, but they definitely have to have people there on Fridays because, people are coming in to ask questions. So that is one reason why you see more people working that Monday through Thursday. And then if it's a department that's all through Friday, they're doing an AB schedule. So they'll either take that Monday off or take a Friday off and run a 410s. That's a great point. Thank you.
Questions? Councilman Jackson?
Thank you, Yoko. I don't see this environment here any different than a typical large corporate environment where you have exempt, non-exempt, desire for flexible work schedules. And then today, more than was 5 or plus years ago, remote versus in-office, hybrid. The whole idea is to offer some flexibility and try to accommodate varying schedules, lifestyles, needs, and that kind of thing. And I think what your survey results show is generally, or actually overwhelmingly, employees are benefiting from the schedule change. You mentioned, childcare challenges being one of the reasons that some say, hey, this has not been, a positive change for me. Very few people, 5 out of 164, said that. Was there an attempt to accommodate them differently? Do they have an option to not do a 410 if it's a problem for them?
Right. So we did allow that, the department directors, again, they know their business. And so if it did not impede in the continuity of business, and they were able to allow that flexibility, I remember there was one person who really needed and wanted to stay on the traditional 8 to 5. We talked to the departments. It didn't impede in any of the continuity of business that they were doing. So they went ahead and said, that's fine. So majority of people who did, there weren't that many people that came to us talking about an option. But we said, you run your business, if it works and allow it, then that's fine.
Yeah.
So it just naturally kind of took its place, and everybody kind of
Right, and
fell
often
into
it
their
does.
groove.
It just
Yeah.
works out. Sometimes things work out, and
Yeah.
some departments like police and fire, they have their own schedules. 4896 is another sort of like
Right.
the way that you said code code
Yeah.
word for come work here.
Very much so.
But, some people in some roles accept the fact that, hey, this is not a role that can do a 410. And if that's somebody that wants to do a 410, they can go to a different role. Those opportunities are there. But I appreciate, the flexibility and the willingness of the department heads to work with their staff and try to be more flexible. When this first came out, the news interviewed Ben about it. We made the news about it, right? It was a big deal.
Yeah. And that's interesting because before we launched this, I reached out to cities who did go 410s. And I asked them that very question. I was like, are you hard line on it's all 410? And the responses I got, I mean, there weren't a lot of cities, it was a few, but they were like, no, we work individually with, different cases. And the majority of time, I mean, it really just works itself out because of the nature of the business. And then if, they're not able to, then that's another conversation.
Right. And,
Yeah.
and I would think that probably our largest department here is probably Parks Department, right? And they have 410 eligibility. And for them, if you look at the graph where we talk about productivity, try to find it. Productivity in a 410 schedule versus, 5 days at 8 hours a day, you completely remove 1 day of ramp up and wind down, right? So you have crews that have to go get in trucks, they got to get equipment, they got to get material, they got to go to a site, they start working. Now they do that 10 hours in 4 days, and they have 1 day where they're not having to go to a site and get trucks and material and such. And so that actually would prove out to improve productivity, for those roles. And it does not affect any level of customer service because they're not client-facing roles.
Right. And I believe in some of those work teams, like even their 410s don't really align with their city hall because they don't really need to. So
Right.
if you're looking at like the heat in the summer, allowing them to come in and work earlier and leave, but they're still working that 410 schedule, that's also very beneficial. And it's important for us to allow the department heads to make that decision, get the job done early when it's cooler before the sun really starts hitting. So
Yep.
we also allow that flexibility in how they're working their
Okay.
crews.
One last comment, I'd be curious to know, in the point that I just made, I would imagine there might be some cost savings. Running 410 versus, 5/8. If there is a way to quantify some cost savings, maybe that's, crew ramp up and wind down time savings. Maybe it's a reduction in overtime because folks can finish the job sooner, given the longer hours and the fewer days. If there's a way to get that data, I think that'd be a good data point to see.
Sure. Will do.
All right, thank
Yeah.
you.
Councilman Neal?
I wanted to ask you a little bit about code enforcement. About how many code enforcement officers do we have, and how many of those are taking advantage of 410 Monday through Thursday?
Oh, my goodness.
Would you know?
Terraria will be able, okay, thank you.
Jabaria Tareen, Deputy City Manager. We have 8 code officers with manager and supervisor.
And are they all working the 410s, or do you know?
We have them on rotation, so there are going to be officers every single day, including Saturdays. But I also know that currently they're working on a schedule where they're trying to cover longer hours.
Okay, all right, thank you, that's all I have.
Anybody else have any other questions? Okay. I do. I want to say a couple of things if I could. I think the operative question here is it working? And that answer may vary depending on what HR says, what an employee says, what the city manager says, and what the residents say. And the one thing we haven't done is we haven't polled our residents to see if they're satisfied with the level of service that they're getting from the city. So maybe we work that into a future customer satisfaction survey to see if residents are satisfied with the way we are delivering service. The other thing is we talk about delivering world-class service. That's a favorite line of our city manager, and that's a great goal to aspire to. World-class service also, within that is the returning emails and voicemails promptly. And so I just want to make sure that all departments are doing that as promptly as they can in order that we keep our residents satisfied. You've got a delicate balance to try to achieve between employees and residents. And, not every call to the city is an emergency call. Not talking about police or fire. I'm talking about, I got a problem I got to have solved now. To some people, it seems like an emergency, but when I talk to residents, people love living in Farmers Branch. And that's a testament to, I think, the cleanliness of our city, our response times, not only for police and fire, but for public works. I just had a gentleman stop me the other day yesterday at Veterans Day and tell me that he called the city regarding a broken curb, and within 30 minutes, there were 2 people out there from Public Works that came out to survey it and told him, hey, we're going to get this fixed. He wasn't expecting that, but that's great service, and I think, that says volumes about the way this city operates. We're just different from a lot of other places, and that's what makes us unique. So kudos to the staff for that. And it's great to have these metrics, but I think what would be more telling, if people were leaving the city in droves, I'd want to know why, in terms of employees. Okay? But it seems like what I garnered from this was that most of our employees are very satisfied working here. So I think we're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And of course, there's always room for improvement, but we'll just
There's
take it as it
always-
goes.
Yeah, exactly. So what I heard you say, I just want to make sure, interested in a citizen poll. One of the things I did speak to actually Maria and Ben this afternoon there, we do have a service called Listen 360 where it does allow, let's say I go to the CSR counter and I have an experience and there is a QR code where they can click on it and then complete a survey. So we do have that. I'm not sure that we're up to the numbers yet. It's something that they just started rolling out. I know the Parks Department uses it and they get some really great feedback on the things that they're doing. But in talking to Maria, she just started implementing it here. And initially, because I assumed or naturally thought when people give surveys, they usually give surveys because they're upset with something, right? And it's like, oh, let me submit this. And when I talked to Maria, I mean, there weren't many because she's just launching it, which we had 4, but 3 of the 4 were 10 out of 10, which to me, I was like, wow, they took the time to say, your staff was great. I had a great experience. One was a 6 out of 10. They didn't provide feedback because you can say what the issue was. Maria reached out to that individual via email and didn't get a response back. But the way I see it is Maria took the initiative and she's like, let me find out what it was. And, she didn't get the response back, but we do have that mechanism where we're getting direct service and then here, you can take this survey.
Okay.
So that's one thing I didn't know that if you knew. I learned about it. Ben told me about it. Maria, I talked to her about it. So that is something that the city does utilize in some departments. And I believe the Parks Department uses it as well.
Very good.
So just so you know that.
All right. Anybody else have anything else?
Yeah, I do. To piggyback off of that, is that something that's available in response to FBTX Connect tickets? Like when they're completed, does whoever submitted the request have the ability to respond in regards to satisfaction on that request?
You know what, Councilmember, I do not know that answer, but that is something, actually, a really interesting question. I can check with our communications team to see if that's an option. I do believe that this was originated through the Parks Department. They used it with a lot of what they were doing, and when Maria moved, she wanted to try to see how it worked up here. But I can try to figure out if there could be a connection or how that might incorporate with each other.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
All righty. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay. Next up is item C5, review the city council meeting dates calendar for 2025 and discuss any proposed amendments.
Mayor, if I may, I'm going to go ahead and release my staff that don't have any future items. I can get them out of here if that's okay.
Good
That's
eve-
fine.
Real quick, for my staff that don't have anything on the agenda, please have a good night. You're free to go. I'll keep the staff that have items on here, which is very few. So please go ahead and enjoy your night. I'll see you in the morning.
Thank you all.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Stacy Henderson, Director of Administrative Services, City Secretary. I'm going to review with you tonight the City Council calendar for 2025. I'm going to hit on highlights for various months, so please feel free to stop me at any point in time if you have any questions or suggestions. We really wanted to maintain the cadence of the first and third Tuesday of the month and not move those meetings. And so we have accomplished that with this calendar, except for the month of October. Due to National Night Out, we're choosing just to have one meeting that month on the third Tuesday. But you'll also see, as we get into November and December, we've added some meetings. So just starting with January, we are proposing the State of the City on January 28th. And in February, our Board and Commission banquet is scheduled at Venue 1842 for February 22nd. And then our strategic planning session for February 25th. May is always a busy, busy month. And with our election cycle, so we are proposing to have a special called meeting on the 13th to canvass the election results. But along with that, so we don't have another meeting that month, we're proposing to put the board appointment workshop along with the canvassing meeting on the same night. So I would love your feedback on that one to see if that's something you would prefer to separate or try this new format and see if we would call the meeting to order, canvass that meeting, and then adjourn that and go into our workshop.
Dallas County won't have the information for you.
I did check, and canvassing, we have to canvass between May 6th and May 14th, and the early voting ballot board will be meeting May 6th through May 12th. So the 13th is our day to canvass. So does that sound
I
like
think
something you would like to try?
That sounds fine.
Yeah,
I think that's fine.
okay. Okay, we'll stick with that. And then, of course, your joint meeting with the Planning and Zoning Commission in June, on June 9th, which will be on their meeting date. For July, we've got a budget workshop scheduled, along with our city council meeting for July 1st, and then a budget town hall at the end of August for August 26th.
Stacy,
Yes.
well, I'm jumping ahead.
That's
You want to talk about September,
Sure.
October? I don't have any question about September.
Okay.
I do about October. It concerns me we only have one meeting there. Can we not have the meeting on the 8th?
We certainly can, if that's what council desires, we certainly can.
I just,
That would be a Wednesday.
I realize it's a little hard to call now, but it keeps us,
We'll tell you, in November and December, we normally, as you know, this month, we're having one meeting in November and then one meeting next in December. Next year, we're proposing that normal cadence of the first and third, so we're having two meetings in November and December next year. We're proposing.
so, I don't know what the council feels about having a one Wednesday meeting, but I would just put that out there, just so we maintain the two meetings a month.
Mayor, what if we shifted and had it on the 14th and the 28th? So we have National Night on the 7th, and do a meeting on the 14th, and then on the
Well,
28th.
I thought about the 28th, but then we have a meeting the following week on the 4th. So I was,
I mean, that's no different than having National Night Out on the 7th and a meeting on the 14th, and
yeah, National Night Out's always going to be that first Tuesday.
Always.
And so it's just, however you wanted to work around it. But I don't know that we would have that much new business between the 21st and the 28th, or the 28th and the 4th. That's why I was suggesting the 8th. But if that doesn't seem, if y'all don't want to do that, that's fine. It's up to you.
I think the 8 is fine. 'Cause I want to say that after the budget, we usually have quite a bit of stuff to talk about just because it's the new fiscal year. So I think it makes sense, so that way we're not stuck on the 21st all night long. So I mean, I think it's fine to do it on the 8th. Can't think of anything that's recurring for me on Wednesdays that would impede that.
Okay. We will add that date of the 8th.
If we get close and we need to look at changing it, we can, but I think it would be wise to have that just for consistency.
Okay. I will add that. And that's all I had, council, unless you have any questions, discussion.
can we go back to September?
Yes, sir.
The 2nd and 16th, would there be any issue with shifting to the 9th and the 23rd? Because that's Tuesday after Labor Day, Monday. That way we're not studying council packet over the weekend. If I wanted to take the
Yeah.
entire week off to take advantage of a holiday on the 1st.
It looks like we might have some budget
Yeah, I was gonna say-
restraints
Budget
we
issues
have
with
to
that?
work within as
Okay.
far as passing. Am I correct, Tammy? Is there by a certain date that we have to have that done? Tax ordinances.
Typically, it's by the 20th. I haven't looked at the calendar from Dallas County yet, but it is typically around the 20th.
So you have tax ordinances that are due earlier than the final budget,
So we do those all together.
right?
Um,
Okay,
So the tax rate goes hand in hand with the budget. So
okay.
that's when we typically done it.
16th date is important.
So we also have public hearings that we have to kind of plan around and advertise for those,
Right,
so.
okay. I was just wondering if that was a potential.
I can double check the calendar and see if that's a possibility, but it will be very, very close to their deadline, if not past it.
Can we go to December? I'm fine with the 2nd on there, but I was hoping we could not do the 16th. I think usually things start to slow down around the holidays, and so just to free up people's ability to travel if they need to right before the holidays.
So my preference would be to leave it. Let's see what the workload is. We could always cancel it if we don't have a whole lot, but I'd like to keep it in place, just again, so everybody knows, first and third Tuesday, that's our council meeting. And we've got that continuity, because there's other boards that work around the things that we say. And certainly by the 2nd, we could make a call, hey, we've got enough, or we don't have enough to really warrant a meeting, and we'll just push it to January, if that's
Yeah,
sufficient.
no, that's fine. I think, as long as we do it early enough and know if we're going to need the meeting or not, that way if people need to travel or whatever, then
Do we
They have
maybe
that.
add an asterisk or something next to it, just for,
I'll make a note.
There's an
As a
asterisk next to
reminder.
everything we do.
just as a reminder, hey, you know, it's-
Yes, sir, I can do that.
Is that agreeable here? Okay,
Okay.
all right, we good?
Council, we're good?
All
Any
right, thank you
questions?
very much.
Okay.
Next up is item C6, discuss amending the start time of city council study session workshops to begin at 3 PM preceding regular city council meetings. This is something that I brought up because I originally moved the start time for study session to 4 o'clock in order to accommodate Councilman Baird. And so I think we've seen on numerous occasions that it is problematic because then we're here till late hours in the evening. So I would like to move it back. It's always been 3 o'clock. Hopefully, we can make that work for everybody. Your thoughts? I'll start down here with Councilman Neal.
I still work full-time, so I'm happy to leave it where it is. So taking advantage of Martin's
Okay.
4 o'clock, so I'm happy to leave it as it is. But I know we've been working awful late, but it's the city business, so.
I'm in a more flexible position now, so if we wanted to move it to 3, I'm fine with that.
Okay. Councilman Roman?
I think maybe leaving it at 4 is fine. And then if there's a heavy agenda, I think in the past what we've done when it was at 3, we just moved it to 2. So maybe we could try that approach as sort of like a in-between. Today would have been maybe one of those, I don't know. I didn't know what today had in store, but maybe that's an approach we can do, is sort of just leaving it at 4, but then, having the option to move it to 3 in case we know it's going to be heavy study session, executive session, or items.
Okay. Councilman Reed?
I have a flexible schedule, so moving it to 3 would be fine with me.
I'm not asking you. But, I know, I understand that it does create some imposition for folks to break away that early. So I have a flexible schedule. I can usually work around it myself.
Well,
Go ahead.
being, I'm sorry.
Oh,
So I would tend to agree with Councilman Roman's suggestion, maybe if we keep it at 4, but if the agenda looks like it's going to be like tonight's would be an ideal, move it to 3.
okay,
And we just call an audible
okay.
the week before.
Then why don't we try that and
Makes
see how
sense.
it works? And hopefully by having regularly scheduled meetings also, that it will reduce some of our workload. We won't be so bunched up.
That works for me, that works for me.
Thank you.
I do need one point of clarification from the council. Whose call is it from 4 to 3? So would you like the mayor to make the call, me to make the call? How would you like us to handle this and then communicate it out? I just want to make sure we're all in alignment and understanding how we're going to move it if it's moved.
How was it done before?
The way it was done in the past is the city manager would let the mayor know that, hey, it's really light or really heavy. Heavy would move it to 2, and if it was really light, it would bump it to 4. So the city manager would make a recommendation and the mayor would make the call.
Why don't we do that? Is everybody okay with that?
Okay. I'll try to keep this at 4 as much as possible. All right, that's fine. Next up is item C7, receive an update from the mayor and council members regarding board liaison information from outside organizations and other meetings attended. Does anybody have any?
Yeah, I won't go through the full thing. Farmers Branch residents have received a significant amount of support from MetroCrest Services. There were 4 different events of note that have occurred in the last month. MetroCrest collaborated with CompuDot, AT&T, and United Way to distribute 76 free laptops to clients as part of a digital inclusion week. They personalized digital literacy sessions and activities were provided. Second item, One Site, formerly Essilor, was on site for 3 days. Over a course of 3 days, they provided 430 individuals, which included adults and kids, with free eye exams and prescription glasses. It was active and very fulfilling 3 days. PNC Bank presented a budgeting seminar in Spanish, which was attended by 23 individuals, focusing on essential budgeting skills for financial health. And lastly, our own Megan Holloway presented a Marketing 101 class. There were 20 clients that attended, and all were actively engaged. Megan broke people up into groups to practice their elevator speeches, and then each presented to the entire class. Feedback from staff and audience was extremely positive. Says it helps that Megan was a teaching background. So it's great to see us getting kudos for events like that.
Very good.
That's all I
Very
have.
Councilman.
Mayor, just a quick note to say, last week, Metro Crest Chamber of Commerce had the annual board had their annual retreat last week, developed a much clearer vision for the future. You know, last year was a big change for them as the Farmers Branch Chamber and the Metro Crest Chambers sort of came together a bit. They talked about key strategic objectives that focus on empowering members, organizational excellence, and being the voice of the business. They're going to refine that plan and roll that out very soon publicly.
Very good. Aidan?
I just wanted to make note that the Firehouse Theater will be having their gala coming up this Saturday, and I think some of us here on the dais may be attending, and
Yep.
look forward to that get-together.
Anything? Okay. So I got a little list here, so I'm going to try to breeze through as quickly as possible. Envision had their grand opening ribbon cutting, and I was there, Councilman Roman, Councilman Reed were there, several staff members were there. Congresswoman Beth Ann Dine was there, so it was a very well-attended event. And I've invited them to come and make a presentation to our council about all the things that they're doing to help those individuals that they serve build independence. I did attend a flood management seminar at the Council of Government that was, or floodplain management, I should say, which was really interesting. There was actually one staff member there I didn't know was going to be there, and we learned ongoing training about learning about floodwater management. And so we'll hear more about that sometime in the future. There have been several meetings that the city manager and I have had with DART regarding the DART 2.0 plan. And the city manager and I met with Michael Morris to discuss that. And then there's been a group of mayors and city managers that have been meeting somewhat regularly to discuss that plan and how DART can improve service delivery to various cities. Of course, we had a tree planting at Rawhide Park. I showed up there for the very last of that. They just did it too fast. But we also had a reception for the new president, Dr. Madeline Hopkins, new president of Brookhaven College, or Dallas College Brookhaven campus. And very nice lady. Look forward to welcoming her and visiting with her. Of course, the college was a huge, huge partner to us the last 10 days with pickleball and enabling pickleball visitors to be able to park there. I did attend a BizNow real estate seminar hosted by M2G. M2G is the company that owns the old Tuesday morning site on Inwood Road. And it really talked about the state of commercial real estate in the Dallas-Fort Worth area and the demands that are on it right now. It was really interesting. hope to get more information to present on that here shortly. As part of pickleball, there was a business conference and expo last Wednesday, and that was presented by PPA, really talking about sports management and the business of sports and what it can do for communities. And there were about 60 to 65 attendees that were listening to various executives come and talk about the impact of sports on their business, whether it be from a marketing standpoint or David Pillsbury, CEO of Invited, was there, and he was talking about how hosting pickleball has helped their club, Brookhaven, and it's actually helped them from a membership standpoint, but it's also given them national notoriety. I did attend another training seminar at the Council of Government. This was a traffic incident management course. Got my little certificate for it. And this was extremely interesting because it talked about roadway accidents and best practices for clearing them and dealing with them. It's not just our police officers or fire personnel that show up to address an accident on a roadway. There are other people that are involved. In fact, every 6 days, a tow operator is killed on a roadway. Tow trucks. You don't think about that. But those drivers are putting themselves in dangers every time they're going out. There's a car wreck every 30 seconds here in Texas, with 5 injury crashes every hour. So the whole purpose of this training is really for police chiefs, fire chiefs, some city officials to learn how to manage car wrecks from a best practices standpoint, because you want to get that scene cleared as quickly as possible so traffic can get decongested. And there's also secondary accidents that result from the primary accident. And all of that just plays into how bad, I'll just say, drivers are. You've got speeding on roadways. Sam Rayburn Tollway, they just stopped somebody the other day that was doing 132 miles an hour on Sam Rayburn Tollway. That person is putting not only themselves but other people in danger. And so the RTC is trying to address this. The Regional Transportation Coalition is trying to address this. They're looking to appropriate about $50 million for the region to increase speed enforcement. And some of that will include more unmarked cars on various roadways, and giving grants to area police departments to address speeding. Of course, we know how bad it is just on our own main thoroughfares, and we've taken our own steps to try to address that. It is, and our steps are working. Our traffic stops are up over 90% over last year, so people are going to get the message. There is a need for more interagency cooperation, and to know that our service, and this was true for all the cities that were trying to make a point, our emergency delivery service doesn't stop at our city limit. If there's an accident and it's just on the other side of our city limit, if we're closest, we should be going because people need help, and that is something that they're going to try to be promoting more in the coming year. For example, more, I guess, better connectivity on that between Farmers Branch and Dallas or Farmers Branch and Irving, vice versa. So I just found it to be really, really interesting, and look forward to getting more information on that. Carrollton Farmers Branch Rotary had a Veterans Day luncheon, And Chief McCoy and I, Ben and Juaria attended that. We appreciate the invite for that. Of course, we had VIP night at pickleball. Unfortunately, weather played a part in that, but I know Mayors Wes Mays and Bruce Arfston attended. We had our own Veterans Day event. Thank you all for coming and being a part of that. And this morning, we had the Metroplex Mayors meeting. I do want to make you aware that at the Metroplex Mayors meeting, they talk about things that are coming up. North Dallas Chamber of Commerce is putting on an annual aviation breakfast tomorrow morning at Frontiers of Flight. Talk about aviation impact on the region. On the 22nd, there's an annual Transportation Crossroads Conference. The North Texas Commission has their legislative summit tomorrow from 9 to 2. The North Texas Unites reception is in Austin on February 19th. There's a water and infrastructure meeting on February 21st. You're going to hear a lot about water and infrastructure coming year because it's a priority with most cities and regional chambers as a legislative agenda priority. And with that, that's all I have to report. So that's enough. Last item, C8, discuss future agenda items. Councilman Roman?
Yeah, I have one. So I think one of the most important things that an organization can offer is culture, and the culture that's is formed by the leadership of an organization. And I think Ben's done an excellent job of hiring and retaining diverse individuals from different backgrounds and supporting them while here. Just look around at the leadership team, but I think as I was thinking about this, I realized that the reality is that he's only one of many leaders of the city, and he can't create the culture or foster a culture on his own. He needs the rest of the staff leadership. He and the rest of the staff leadership need our support in establishing the tone and culture of the city. And so for that reason, I'd like to add a future agenda item discussion, not a memo, to discuss the mission, vision, values, and culture of the organization as we see it in a collaborative space. I believe that different departments have different values, and we as a city should have one. I think we have, I think the police department has Pride, and we have React, and I think there's another department that might have another one. And so I think this will serve as a foundation for our strategic retreat discussion. So I want to clarify that it's important that we have this discussion before then, if possible. And I'd like to make sure that our HR team is engaged and takes the lead on this, given that culture is right up their alley. And that's it for me.
Thank you. Councilman Beard?
I have one from the incoming Tina Bennett Burton, who asked if we could get crime statistics that exclude traffic and see if there are pockets, let's see, would like to see if there are pockets, so I'd like to see it overlaid on a map. And was also interested in getting info on gang activity. All that was from Tina's request for the future.
Okay, you might ask her to send an email just so we have a little more clarity on that.
Okay.
That would be great. Councilman Reed?
It doesn't have to be near future, but going back to the multicultural committee conversation that we had earlier, talking about that overarching committee.
Councilman Neal?
Yeah, I'd just like to ask for an agenda item where we can discuss adding veterans to the landfill closure fee issue, maybe offering them an exemption or reduced fee.
Veterans and disabled, we have disabled.
Yeah, disabled's already there, I think. I'm
Okay,
just
all right.
the veterans.
I have nothing at this time, Mayor.
Okay. Okay, sorry about that. All righty. Well, thank you, everybody, for your input on that. You got all those?
I do have everything, and I'll send a link to the council. There's a LexisNexis community crime map that already has all of our crime statistics on it that's visualized, so I'll send that to the council so you have it, and the incoming council member as well.
Very good, thank you so much. So with that, we don't have any other business. We will adjourn at 9:47. Thank you very much.